Welcome to This Explainer. Today, we're jumping right into how ancient DNA is completely rewriting the story of human evolution. Honestly, I am so thrilled we get to talk about this because we're looking at some absolutely groundbreaking science that is fundamentally changing how we view ourselves as a species. I mean, it's the ultimate question, right? Where do we actually come from? For decades, we kind of just thought we knew the answer. It was neatly printed right there in all of our textbooks. But recent genetic discoveries? Well, they're forcing us to ask that question all over again, and it's challenging the very roots of our family tree. So let's dive into this. The old textbook story of a single straight-line human ancestor, the classic out-of-Africa, unbroken branch, that's being completely thrown out the window. Instead, it's being replaced by this incredibly complex, tangled web of early human populations. Thanks to new genetic models, and especially the sequencing of diverse genomes from African populations like the Nama, we're looking at a totally new reality. It's really more of a complex genetic mosaic of mingling, diverging, and overlapping lineages. Section 1. The Genetic Time Machine. To really wrap our heads around how this history was rewritten, we have to look at the scientific catalyst that basically made time travel possible: paleogenomics. For a very long time, scientists thought extracting DNA from ancient degraded bones was, well, flat out impossible. The DNA was just way too fragmented, degraded by time, and constantly overwhelmed by modern microbial contamination. But this whole field was spearheaded by a brilliant scientist named Svante Pääbo, who meticulously fought off all that microbial contamination to prove that actually the impossible could be done. And Pääbo's timeline reveals a story of just seemingly impossible progress, starting back in 1997 with early mitochondrial sequencing, where he extracted just a tiny fragment of DNA from a Neanderthal bone. Then jumping to 2010, his team achieved the unthinkable. They published a full draft of the Neanderthal nuclear genome. This wasn't just a win for genetics, it was a monumental leap for humanity, and it actually culminated in his 2022 Nobel Prize in Physiology or Medicine. Section 2. Neanderthals and Denisovans. So, this genetic time machine led us straight to the ultimate plot twist. Our ancestors were not alone. And the wildest part, a massive revelation came from a microscopic clue. In 2008, in the Denisova cave over in Siberia, archaeologists found a tiny, juvenile pinky bone. Just a pinky. There was no skull, no complete skeleton, literally no morphological clues to tell us who this belonged to. But when Pääbo's team extracted the DNA, it didn't match modern humans and it didn't match Neanderthals. It belonged to an entirely new, previously unknown hominin group that we now call the Denisovans. I mean, just imagine discovering a whole new branch of the human family from a single pinky bone. But the story gets even better. When scientists compared these ancient genomes to ours, they found undeniable proof that early Homo sapiens interbred with these groups. Because of this mingling, present-day populations of European and Asian descent carry about 1 to 4% Neanderthal DNA. They didn't just meet, they made it, and they left a permanent, lasting mark on our genetic code. And it gets even bigger, because it wasn't just Neanderthals. As modern humans migrated across the globe, they ran into the Denisovans too. Today, present-day Melanesians actually carry about 4 to 6% Denisovan DNA. This shows us that interbreeding wasn't just some rare one-off anomaly. It was a recurring theme in human history. Now, you might be wondering, why does this matter to me right now? Well, this isn't just ancient history. You might actually be carrying direct inheritances from these ancient encounters in your own body, right at this very second. For example, modern Tibetans carry the Denisovan EPAS1 gene, which gives them an incredible genetic advantage for surviving at super high altitudes. And many of us carry TLR and OAS genes inherited from both Neanderthals and Denisovans. Those genes directly influence our immune systems and allergic responses today, even playing a role in how our bodies handle modern respiratory viruses. So our ancient relatives are literally helping us survive today. Section 3. The Lost European Pioneers. Okay, the story gets even more complex and honestly a bit mysterious when we look at the very first modern humans to enter Europe. Recently, researchers from the Max Planck Institute sequenced the oldest modern human genomes to date. These came from individuals found at Zlatikon in Czechia and Ranis in Germany, dating all the way back to between 42,000 and 49,000 years ago. These individuals lived during a time when Neanderthals were still very much alive and roaming around Europe. In fact, these genomes represent the earliest known divergence of a group that split off from the populations that originally left Africa. And these specific genomes tell a fascinating story. They essentially give us a high-definition picture of what these people actually looked like. The genetics reveal that these early European pioneers carried physical traits like dark skin, dark hair, and brown eyes. This directly reflected their recent African origins, even as they moved into the freezing cold northern latitudes of Europe. Yet, here is the absolute wildest part of their story. Despite surviving in the harsh, open steppe landscapes of Pleistocene Europe, and despite successfully interbreeding with Neanderthals, this specific, small, extended family group of pioneers left absolutely zero genetic descendants in present-day populations. None. They are a completely lost lineage. It just goes to show that human expansion wasn't the steady, inevitable march of victory. There were dead ends, lost tribes, and entire chapters of human history that just completely faded away into the ice. Section 4. A tangled evolutionary web. So this brings us to the grand takeaway of what this genetic time travel actually means for our understanding of ourselves. We now know, for sure, that our origins aren't a clean, unbroken branch on a tidy family tree. Actually, scratch that. It's more like a chaotic, beautiful, deeply tangled web of isolated groups, sweeping migrations, intimate mingling between species, and brave but ultimately lost pioneers. Every single one of us is a walking, breathing mosaic of this incredible history. To wrap up this explainer, there's a thought from the 2022 Nobel Prize scientific background that really hits the nail on the head. It reminds us that these ancient DNA fragments do more than just rewrite history. They provide the very basis for understanding what truly makes us uniquely human. By figuring out exactly what we share with Neanderthals and Denisovans, we finally get to see what belongs strictly, uniquely to us. It's a profound shift in perspective, and it really leaves you wondering, what other lost chapters of our DNA are still out there, just waiting to be unearthed in the dirt?